Bridgette, welcome to Global Woman Family.
Thank you.
So great to have you here. I'm very excited. We met with Bridgette where? At the NASDAQ, at the UN headquarters last year, and we clicked immediately. So I better leave Bridgette. She's a very good storyteller. Maybe I better leave you to tell the story. How did we connect? Not only as two amazing dreamers, but also with the mission to empower the women.
Absolutely. And what you don't know, I've never shared this story, but a year prior to meeting you in person, I had heard of Global Woman Club through my network here in the US. And people kept saying, you need to meet Mirela, you need to meet her. And they kept saying that she's doing what you're doing, Bridgette, in the UK. So I had kind of cyber stalked you for a minute. And then but I had never, sent an email or anything like that. I was just kind of reading about what you were up to and how massive of an empire that you created around empowering women around the world. And so when I met you in person in NASDAQ, you had no idea, but I already knew who you were.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't hear about you, but I entered a room with like over 100 women. And one woman who is standing out on the way she positions herself, on the way she looks like, the way she dress up and makeup is like, you are like, oh my God, I want to meet that woman. I want to know who is she. So I had the same feeling. And we connected the very first moment that we met each other. It's the energy, it's the drive. So I am the honored one that I have found you, I've discovered you, because honestly, in our community, I have met thousands of women who have a dream to drive their business, to grow, to expand, to make their dreams come true, and not only for themselves, but also for the next generation. And you are the one that I need help. I need help because with you, we can join the pieces together. We can make the puzzle work.
Absolutely. And that's the energy I felt from you at NASDAQ, at the United Nations, was, how you meet someone, ladies, and you can't get enough. You want to know more. You want to stick close to them, and just understand what makes them tick. Who are they? What motivates them? And so that was Mirela for me. And so we literally met, and then we were inseparable all the entire time in New York. And then now we're inseparable now because I'm now part of the Global Woman Club family. So it is truly my honor to be here and to support this community of women and to empower all of us to have financial freedom, all of us to build generational wealth, and all of us to become very, very well educated, prepared, and astute investors. That's my goal.
Thank you so much, Bridgette. Thank you again for everything you do and for all your beautiful energy that you are bringing to our community. So before we start with our special mini masterclass with you, and of course, we're going to have an opportunity for Q&A for all the ladies who have joined us today. Can you tell us a little bit of your journey? Because you, I guess, you didn't have it ready in the table. You didn't come from a background where the opportunities were there. You just had to choose. You built it all way to where you have become today. So tell us a little bit about where did it start?
For me, I'll go backwards. I come from a family of three siblings. I'm one of three. I'm the middle. I always say I was ignored. My mother is a single mother, worked really hard, always had multiple jobs. So she always had multiple streams of income. That's very important to know about me. So we had very little growing up. And so my mother was a saver. She always used coupons. And we always knew I learned early how to stretch and how to buy in bulk. Why do I share all that? Because that is the thread that is continuous throughout my entire journey. I always have multiple streams of income. I still buy in bulk, I still save, and I still use coupons. So very important to my early childhood. From there, I would say, I'm going to walk you on a very short journey. So from a career perspective, right? We all wear many hats. From a career perspective, I started in television. I worked in television for many years, on air, behind the camera, a talk show host, news reporter, on air commentator. I accidentally bumped into technology. And I say that because at the time I was looking for just extra work, just an extra source of income, multiple streams of income. And so I applied for a job for a tech writer. Didn't realize 25 years later, that tech writer position had opened up so many doors that I worked my way all the way up to the C-suite. So I went from the very bottom, tech writer, all the way up to project manager, program director, managing global operations to chief of staff. So now I've landed in the C-suite. My entire journey there was difficult, hard, and all those things that we all experience as females in the workplace. When I reached the C-suite, it was extremely dehydrating. I was very lonely. There were very few other women around me who I could talk to and could guide me and answer some of the difficult questions that I had along the way. So, and ironically, you know, as a Christian, I believe all things happen for a reason and in time. So at that pit stop, I'll call it, Google came along. And so it took over a year for us to go through the vetting process for them to bring me on as a senior executive at Google. So here I am in the tech world, accidentally 25 years later after starting as a tech writer, C-suite, and now comes Google. So I joined the Google executive team. At that point, I think I was already burnt out, if you will, just climbing that ladder for 25 years. Google is a corporation, a massive corporation, but I also felt like I wasn't using all of the tools and skills in my toolbox as well. Here I am, I have all this experience, and I now landed in Silicon Valley, relocated from Wisconsin to California, and I still felt somewhat depleted. Even if I had reached the pinnacle in many people's eyes of success, you know, I had the golden handcuffs. As a matter of fact, I had multiple golden handcuffs, to be honest with you. And so, but I still felt incomplete. And so I was thinking about retirement at that point. I said, okay, well, if this isn't where I can be the most powerful and still do the work that I know is my purpose and my passion, which is elevating women and making sure women are empowered, women have the tools and resources to grow and expand. You know, where else? I just prayed it through. I prayed on it. And while I was praying, guess what happened? I was still in the rooms with the white men in Silicon Valley, and anyone knows anything about Silicon Valley, it's heavily populated by people who don't look like us ladies. And so I'm in these spaces and in these rooms where these men are talking over my head about recent investments in startups. They're talking about using vocabulary and taxonomy I'd never heard before. And even though I felt it was intentional, that they were intentionally isolating me from the conversation, intentionally excluding me from the conversation. What did I do? I didn't get pissed off. I got motivated. So I got activated. So all I started to do was to write down what I was hearing. I researched it. And then it turns out they were talking about investing. And when I looked up what is a founder, I said, oh, a founder is an entrepreneur. When I looked up what is a startup is an early stage company. When I looked up equity, I'm like, oh, that's just, you know, having a bit of a piece of the pie within a company, right? I have ownership within a company. So the fundamentals were right in front of me, but I was exposed to it by accident once again. So I believe accidents in my life journey has been a blessing for me. So I went from Google to then I said, well, I'm ready to exit, but what does that look like for me? So for me, I said, how can I add the most value, still continue to do the work that I so enjoy doing, but I don't want to work for someone else. I want to start my own thing and I want to do it on my terms. So I exited Google. I left. I retired. When I did, I started to, again, just dabble in investing. So that's where the story picks up around my first investment to where I am today. So I'll pause there and just, you know, let that breathe for a second, because my journey has definitely been one of just lots of doors opening. Every time I say yes, a new door opens and it takes me to a higher level. So that has been my life journey so far.
Wow, that's so powerful. I'm so happy that you shared that, because it tells, number one, what I'm taking away is conditioning. How did you get conditioned that you always need to work for extra levels of income. So how you always have to prepare yourself not to rely on other people, especially not to rely on men, definitely, because this is what we talk a lot. A man is not a financial plan. So, and you learned how, and you increased your ability to make your own money, to always create extra incomes, extra resources. Another thing is like the higher you go, the bigger the challenges are, but you didn't get pissed off. You didn't complain. You didn't find excuses. You just found the way how to learn. You became hungry to learn. And interestingly, you said something I felt incomplete because you were looking for your purpose. You're following that path toward your purpose. And then that purpose guided you to women. So where is Bridgette now? Tell us about the becoming. How did you become this person? And where are you at this stage of your journey?
Yeah. So I often say I started exactly where I was. And I encourage, as we talk today, for you to think about where you are in your journey. No matter where you are in your journey, there's still doors that can open. There's still opportunities that you can say yes to that will take you to a higher level, whatever level it is that you aspire to reach. So for me, I started to investigate. In the world of investing, they call it bootstrapping. So I bootstrapped my way to understand investing, and I still do today. I went to workshops, I read books, I watched YouTube videos. I asked lots of questions, even when I didn't even know what questions to ask, ladies. I still raised my hand and I said, I don't quite know if I'm wording this correctly, but ... So I constantly ask questions. When any Zoom call I'm on, I'm usually the one who has the most questions. I love to learn. So I bootstrapped my way into understanding the world of investing. And so when I felt comfortable, I wrote my first check. And by the way, when they say check, it really means a wire transfer. So I sent my first wire transfer. It was only for $2,500. Some people say it's a lot. Some people say it's a little. That's what I was comfortable with. Doesn't matter how much you have in the bank. What are you comfortable with? And that's what I sent the wire for. I found a company on Angel List, a website that has lots of opportunities for investors to find startups. I did my research. Again, I was just learning. I hit the enter button to send the wire. And I swear to you, about 2 seconds later, I wanted my money back. I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. You know, what can I do? A undo, a redo, or something? But it doesn't work like that. So once you send that wire, it's out in the ether, right? So I started with that first investment. And then I continued to learn. And then somewhere along the way, one of the people, and I'm in a lot of rooms with a lot of different types of investors, people, high net worth individuals, venture capital, people who've been in the business, in the industry for 20, 30 years. Here I am, you know, month 1, month 2, still learning my way. I'm very much an infant at that stage. And this is in 2021. And so I'm continuing to ask lots of questions. So one person said to me, Bridgette, I think you would really be you should look at limited partners. You should become a limited partner in a fund. I didn't know what LP was, and I didn't know what it meant to have what a fund was. So did more research. It turns out that when you become a limited partner, that just means that you are now investing in a fund. A fund is a portfolio of companies, and that portfolio of companies is now, if you write a check for say 100,000 or 50,000 or 25,000 or 10,000, 5,000, okay, 1,000. If you write a check, i.e., send a wire, depending on the circumstances of the deal and the fund that you're investing in, you now have a portion of ownership within that portfolio, right? So if that portfolio is 20 companies, that portfolio is 30 companies, whatever amount you invest, you have a tiny bit of equity in that portfolio. So as that portfolio of startups start to mature, grow, scale, increase their traction, et cetera, and become attractive for a liquidity event such as acquisition, or they become a public company, they IPO. Whenever they have a successful liquidity event, I then, as a limited partner, along with all the other limited partners, we then receive a return on investment. So I said, aha, I can do one wire And I could, by sending one wire into a fund, I can then invest in multiple companies. I said, oh, okay. So I started, that became my sweet spot. So I did direct investments with many startups, all different types of startups. I have a very clear thesis. I invest in startups that are led by women, people of color, or LGBTQ founders. I invest in funds who also have leadership that look like us as well. And then the industries are agnostic. I invest in almost any type of company, almost at any type of stage, from early ideation stage all the way up to pre-IPO. So current day, 2024, I've now invested in over 300 startups. So that's where I am today.
Wow, wow, wow. That is absolutely an incredible story. And thank you for bringing all of this, because we need more knowledge and more education and more information in this. The very first time that I started showing interest in investment, it was in 2019 when I met Mary Buffett and I interviewed her. Until I met her and I heard her speak, I thought an investor can be only somebody who has lots of money sitting there and doesn't know what to do with it. She was the very first person opening my eyes and telling me that you can also invest 1,000 pounds. You have 1,000 pounds, you open an account and you can invest. I said, at first I was like, wow, does that work? I was really curious. Then I invited her in a masterclass in 2020, and we ran like a 3-hour session with her. That was mind-blowing for me, because then immediately I started understanding and studying, as you said, that, oh, investment, you don't need to be rich to start investing. And this is where it starts. So now it's, again, as I listen to you, I mean, you are like the best example I can imagine. And I'm a very big supporter of new initiatives, new things that maybe other people didn't tell us. I wish I knew before. I wish I understood this before. And I want to bring more. I have been, since then, I've been bringing lots of investors, very high net worth individuals, successful people in the investment world, just to bring at least awareness and education in our community. So I want to go through a few little things, because I guess there are many people here who they are newcomers and they don't understand a few concepts. I remember, for example, in the last year or so, I've been inviting almost in every event, like family office, angel investors, all kind of opportunities to invest. And in every event, I have realized that, does somebody know what is a family office is? And then there was in one of the events recently, I didn't see anybody raising their hand. Nobody in the room, even though I knew these women are very successful in their business. Quite a few women, they've been running like 6-7 figure business. And I was shocked that, okay, we need to talk about this. So let's talk a little bit. What is the difference between several type of investors? I want to explore together, so we bring a little bit of excitement into the group before we take you to the masterclass. So
Sure.
Let's start. What an angel investor mean? So yeah, I want to know your perspective and bring it into a very simple world. So how do these investors invest, let's say, in early stages, or just explain with very little definition? What is an angel investor?
Yeah. So an angel investor
Sure.
is an
Because I
individual.
have other investors' definition that I want you to go through very shortly.
Okay, yeah. So angel investor is an individual who looks like us, who wants to invest and support a startup. And so you are at whatever amount you are comfortable with. It could be, like I said, my first check was 2,500. It could be as little as 500. It could be 100. An angel investor invests in startups, and there's
Now,
different
I want
types
to
of
see in
angel.
the chat, is somebody in the room that knew that you can start as little as that? Is somebody in the room that didn't know what is an angel investor? Just type it in the chat if you didn't. Okay, yeah, go on, Bridgette.
Yeah, I was just going to further explain that there are different types of angel investors. There are passive angel investors, individuals who send a wire and then they just kind of back off, and they are not actively engaged with the founder or the entrepreneurs leading the company or the leadership leading the company. So they invest, and then it's like they go back to their regular world, and they just kind of watch the monthly reports come in, and they're hoping for the best based on their decision making. Then there are strategic investors who are angels as well. I'm more of a strategic angel investor. I lean in. I want to have active phone calls with the founders. I want to support the founders in whatever way I can support them. And I have a deep background. Most strategic investors have a very deep corporate experience that they bring to the table. They have a deep network that they bring to the table. So we are empowering ourselves and the founders to lean on us. And so we're called strategic investors. So those are the two that are very common.
Okay, wonderful. Now, let's move on, because I can see some ladies say, I didn't know about it. I had no clue about it. Now, does somebody in the room know about VC? What is a VC, ladies? I want to see. What is a VC? Venture capitalist. What do these investors do and manage? What kind of pool of funds they manage? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a venture capital firm is a company, usually it has two or more general partners, fund managers, different titles, managing partners, et cetera. So it's a firm that manages funds. And the funds, as I kind of alluded to earlier, are very focused on a specific category of startup sectors. So the funds might focus on, say, women's health, or the funds may focus on, say, green and sustainability. So this venture capital firm manages multiple funds, and in those funds, they are actively managing deal flow. Deal flow is incoming, inbound founders looking for capital to help their companies to scale. So these structures of firms have many layers to them. They have investment committees, for instance, and those investment committees are usually specialists over the funds. And those investment committees are also the ones who vet the deal flow that comes in. They also manage due diligence. So they have pitch events where the founders come up and just pitch their business. Then there's further deep dive due diligence to make sure that the numbers and the data and what the founder is saying actually aligns with the data, the financials, et cetera. And then they manage the investment for the life of the portfolio in that fund. They manage it for the life of the fund. A fund generally lasts for 10 years. That's the term. So if you invest in a VC firm, you're usually investing in a fund. The fund, then the life of the fund is 10 years, and your investment is locked into that fund for the duration. And anytime there's an exit within the fund, a liquidity event, as I mentioned earlier, we as investors, we're called limited partners in those funds. And then we receive a return on investment should those liquidity events be positive.
Thank you for bringing this. And my dream, especially in the last year or so, I've been investing into preparing how can we create a women's fund. A women's fund is my next dream level. So we definitely need to work on that. How do we create a women's fund? Because the time has arrived, ladies, for women to become investors as well, because the biggest investment in the world, the majority of investment goes to men. And if you see statistics, I don't know how it is in the US, but in the UK, only a very, very small number of women get investment. And I'm telling you, it's not the man's fault. We're not going to blame anybody. It's us, because we do not have the education. We don't have the knowledge. The opportunities are there. So let's get into it. Now, I want to ask you about private equity investors.
So private equity investors.
Yes. How do they engage in buying or companies out, or tell us everything you know about it?
Yeah, it's not in my specialty, so I'm not in that swim lane, but
Just
I'll tell you a
little bit of definition.
A little bit about what I know. So what I believe private equity is companies, so they buy they invest in funds. So those same venture capital firms that have funds that I mentioned, so private equity entities might invest in those funds. So there's an infusion of capital from that perspective. Private equity firms manage fund portfolios. So again, if they have, so just think about funds, a VC firm has multiple funds. Yeah. So a private equity company might have a portfolio of multiple venture capital funds, and they manage those portfolios. So that's my understanding of PE.
Yeah, and they manage these portfolios with the aim, with a big goal in their mind, that they buy something small, they make it big with the goal that they are going to find an exit and they are going to sell it and make lots of profit. I had quite a few of these approaching me last year saying, okay, we see the potential. Let's get to Global Woman. Let's get you to our equity. And then we buy you out, we grow it massive. Like, let me give, I think one example that comes into my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, is like, I remember when Instagram was bought for, I'm not going to give a figure, but it was bought like quite big, thinking like, oh my God, we got millions. But only a few years later, the value of Instagram grew like 100%. It grew like massive. So this is what exactly means, that when you come to a company where you see the potential, you see the growth future, and then because you have that vision about it, then you invest in that company, you buy it out, and then in a few years, the value of the company grows so much and you can exit anytime. How Absolutely. Amazing is that? So you are able, let's say, you are able to buy a startup, grow the startup, and sell it for, I mean, today, by the way, it was very interesting. I went with my partner to visit a big top investor because we are now launching the Global Women Investors, you know, and you are a big part of this as well. So in London, we'll start soon, by the way. All the influencers will have the opportunity to access that that group, that inner circle. And, you know, this guy invested into a startup just when at the beginning of COVID. It was a tech company, and she showed me newspapers in the wall. Now that company has a value of over $1 billion. Just one little move that he did, the right move. He invested like a couple of hundred of thousands, and that company grew like massively. Now imagine the value of that investment, how much it has grown. Do you see, ladies, and at the end, maybe Bridgette, you will tell during your presentation a little bit more. At the end, even the investment is a numbers game. You have to invest, like you said, you invest in 300 companies, but hey, not all of 300 companies are going to have the return investment, but it has to be quite a good number of investment. So at least it takes one or two that it is worth for the whole investment that you have done. So before we go there, I want to explain one more concept, because somebody also asked about impact fund, impact investors. What is it about? Let's talk a little bit about the impact investors.
So, so an impact investor is an investor, and again, this is different people have different explanations. I'm giving you Bridgette's version. So my understanding and how I see myself as an impact investor is that I invest in, say, green and sustainability, climate tech, things that make the earth better, things that are just impact the environment, for instance. And so, or it could impact people. So for instance, I invest, like I said, in diversity, equity, and inclusion is heavy theme across my portfolio. So I invest in founders who look like me, who are also investing in those same categories as well. So an impact investor is a person who really just wants to make sure that their dollars are being used to make something better. And it could be climate tech, it could be, you know, something else, but it's really like, think about energy. That could be considered impact investing, for instance, like electric cars or energy,
the planet,
things like that.
Yeah. And I really love the mission of impact investors. I know quite a few friends, and a few of them we met at the headquarters UN headquarters in New York, I met quite a few of them, and one of them is my best friend. She comes to all the Global Women events, and I want to give her a big, big shout out and a big credit for what she does, Marianne Thompson Frank. She is my great role model. I have learned a lot from her because for her, it's not just about the profit. It's not just about what is in it for me. It's what is it in it for the future, for the planet, for the next generation, for the impact that we are going to create.
Yes.
And I really have big respect for impact investors. So one more before we give you the mic to lead us to your beautiful masterclass. Hedge funds. Tell us what you know about hedge funds and what we need to know, what we need to learn about it. So what is the strategy around it and assets for
So
long?
again, that's a wheelhouse I'm not very familiar with. So I'll have to take a pass on that one. I'd hate to take a stab at
No
it.
problem. Look, I like the idea that look, I thought we're just going to go through a little bit of information, but usually hedge funds employ diverse strategies to invest in a wide range of assets, or including long or short positions, diversities, other complex financial instruments. Hedge funds, I think, are typically open only for accredited investors because they are higher risk and potential returns. As I said, I'm more in terms of hungry to learn, in terms of studying where is the difference and what I need to know. But what you have shared with us today is just amazing and powerful. And thank you for focusing on what is your niche, because every industry has a niche. For example, you may be I don't know, a coach, a business coach, but you still have your niche. You may be a doctor, but you still have your niche, your specialty. We're going to focus on what is your specialty today. I'm very grateful for everything you shared.